buen día, Christien. Gracias por estar en el canal. Bienvenido, maestro. Bueno, yo quisiera preguntarle sobre un debut de su trabajo que se llama Chill Factor. ¿Cómo es la experiencia en este tema del cine ya comenzando con todo el tema de make-up?
Hey, like Jhon always does, welcome to the channel. And yeah, let's go back to the beginnings. Tell us about how I was working in the Shield Factor, man, and working all with all these studies and all these things.
Oh, Chill Factor. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's that was a long time ago. Wow, Chill Factor. That was back when I was working with Steve Johnson. Steve Johnson is are you familiar with Steve Johnson? Makeup effects?
Tell me some of the projects. I only translate, but tell me some of
I
the
mean, Steve Johnson was responsible for the original Slimer from Ghostbusters. Um, I'm going, of course, blank right now. Fright Night was
Wow.
one of his movies. He worked with Rick Baker on American Werewolf in London. He did, God, so many good ones, and I'm going blank on all of them right now. An amazing artist, an amazing designer, and that was one of my first jobs in Los Angeles. Was working at his studio. And Chill Factor was one of the films that we had done with him. A gentleman by the name of Joel Harlow, who now is a very successful makeup artist who has his own studio. We did that film together as far as the prosthetics and the makeup effects for that. That was almost 25 years ago. That was a long time ago now. Yeah, it was, it was fun. You know, I was really young and fairly new to the business. And it was one of my first times on location. I had done a couple other films on location. And that was one of the first films that I did on location with another makeup artist, Joel. And we were responsible for making the people look like they were blistering and melting and going through all these horrific sort of chemical sort of destructions that were augmenting and killing them. But that, it actually wasn't a big makeup effects film, although there were makeup effects in it. It wasn't as big as most of the projects that we do.
because you talk about Friday Night. Tom Holland was here on the channel, so I should be back. But no, wow, I will
Oh, yeah.
translate. Yeah, Tom was on like 2 years ago on Halloween. One of the best Halloweens of my life, by the way.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was like, yeah, and I will translate. Pues John, acá sintiéndome mal porque esto no me acordaba, ¿no? El trabajo que hizo de Shield Factor lo hizo con el mismo director de efectos especiales de Ghostbusters, Friday Night, Steve, ¿sabes? Dice que no, que eso fue hace como 25 años, que obviamente él tenía que hacer todas las cuestiones del maquillaje para tú sabes que es una película que habla de personas que sufren como un ataque nuclear, ¿no? Tú sabes. Pero que no fue una película que usó muchos efectos, si se da cuenta. Y lo más chévere es que de los pocos proyectos donde él ha trabajado en exteriores como tal, dice que era muy joven y que estaba aprendiendo.
Wow, man, eso es algo increíble. Gracias por decirlo, thanks, Christien. Hay algo importante, ¿no? Y es sobre, está un tema de la Navidad. Hay dos producciones antes de hablar sobre la otra y es sobre el tema de Bullfighter. Es una producción demasiado buena sobre los templarios, pero está también el Grinch. Men, yo no sabía que obviamente fue maquillista en casi la mayoría de escenas. Inclusive hay alguna, la de Tyler Monza, que no sabía que se convertiría en una estrella musical. Así que, bueno, que me comentes esas dos producciones sobre la Navidad, ¿no?
It's crazy because John mentioned two productions that happen at Christmas, that is Bullfighter, but also The Grinch. And John is asking not only was working with that cast, we know Jim Carrey, but also with Taylor Momsen. It's crazy how she become that little child to a rock star now to tell us about working on those productions.
Oh, yeah. Wow, the Bullfighter. That's another old one. You got some great ones there. Bullfighter and the Grinch. Let's see. Bullfighter was a project that Joel Harlow, who I'd mentioned previous, while we were working at Steve Johnson's XFX, we would do side projects. And one of the side projects was the bullfighter. And that was the project that got both Joel and myself into the makeup union, which allows you, at least here in the States, to be able to work on these bigger films as a makeup artist. If you're not in the union, there's a lot of movies you can't work on. And so the bullfighter, to me, was a very pivotal, important moment in my career, because that was the project that, again, allowed me to get into the union and become a makeup artist, to go on and do films like The Grinch, which happened to be my first film in the makeup union. And, the bullfighter, again, didn't have a lot of effects. It was a very small budget, didn't require a lot from us, but kept us busy for a couple months. And we went to Texas, I believe is where we shot that, if I remember correctly. And we built these gags and these makeup effects, and that was basically it. There wasn't a lot to say. I would like to say we were more involved with that show, but we had a very small sort of focus that we were doing. When that show ended, like I said, we got into the union, and then I made some phone calls to people that I knew in the business, letting them know that I could work on these other projects. And one of the first calls that I got back was to work on The Grinch, which we all know Rick Baker was responsible for building everything. Kazoo, who worked for Rick, was, important in making that design happen as well. And then there was, I don't know, about 50 of us makeup artists all dealing with different characters. And I was fortunate enough to have one of the main characters played by Clint Howard, who was Ron Howard's brother in that film. And then I probably did, I don't know, 20 or 30 other characters throughout the course of that show, because I was very young and I was very hungry and very excited to be working. So anytime there was somebody available and my chair was empty, I would put somebody in my chair and I would do their makeup. And it was just, it was an exciting time, because again, it was very, very new to me. And so that's always an exciting time in your career, when you're meeting people and every experience is sort of a new experience. Nowadays, every experience is a different experience and not so much a new experience. That's what happens though. When you do something for 30 years, you've seen most everything. It's just a matter of how different it's going to reveal or show itself. But yeah, those were two movies from a very long time ago.
Yeah. And for us, mostly for me, that I grew up with The Grinch, for me, it was like yesterday, but no, it's really an old movie. I even remember the trailers on the cinema, but I will translate. Jhon, Bullfighter fue muy importante porque gracias a este proyecto fue que él pudo entrar a la Unión, y al entrar a la Unión es que ocurre esta cuestión que te empiezan a llegar proyectos, digamos, más caros, más grandes. Fue unos meses, dice que no fue mucho un trabajo en el sentido de, pues, cuando tú comparas con producciones que se tienen que trabajar bastante, pero fueron unos meses. Y sí, el primer proyecto, cuando él hizo unas llamadas, el que lo llevaron fue al Grinch. Obviamente tú sabes que Rick Baker es el responsable de construir todo, pero a él le tocó, que fue muy loco, porque él le tocó primero hacer el maquillaje del hermano de Ron Howard, de Clint, pero resultó haciendo como 20 maquillajes como para 20 personajes, porque como una producción muy grande, y él pues estaba muy joven, era como que si lo veían desocupado, él quería ocuparse, por así decirlo, y él ahora dice que antes en esa época cada proyecto era nuevo para él, ahora cada proyecto es diferente. Esa es la forma que cambia la visión de vida en este tipo de trabajo.
Wow, man, eso es increíble, ¿no? Bellísima respuesta. Esa también otra pregunta que sobre poder contribuir en producciones de dos actores que obviamente han tenido producciones y veo en el tema del maqueo prostéticos, en el tema de tanto el actor Josh Brolin y Brad Pitt. En Brad Pitt, bueno, está uno, Kim Tinsley y, y Josh Brolin, bueno, la de No Country y la Bordel. ¿Cómo es la experiencia contribuyendo para esos dos actores? Película para esos dos actores.
Hey, John is asking about your contribution from movies from two different actors. Of course, you worked in Clinton Softly with Brad Pitt and Josh Brolin in Labor Day, but also one of the biggest or greatest movies of the last years that is No Country for All Men. So tell us how I
Sure.
was working on it. But yeah.
Well, I've worked with Brad. I'll start with Brad Pitt. I've worked with Brad Pitt several times over the last 20 years. The first time I worked with Brad was on Ocean's 11. Brad has had the same makeup artist with him for over 30 years. And so I tend to get brought in to work with Brad on specialty moments. So on Ocean's 11, I was doing Matt Damon's makeup, but Brad's character wanted tattoos. And so I designed and created his tattoos for that show. And then some years later, we worked again, and we've worked on several films now. We worked on Assassination of Jesse James, Killing Them Softly, which happens to be the same director of both of those, which is another reason why I was brought into those movies. And then movies like Fury, Ad Astra, and a few others. Like we just recently did some tattoos for him on this latest one that has yet to be released. Bullet Train, we did stuff for him on that. So yeah, I mean, I tend to occasionally come into Brad's world every now and then to do makeup. As far as Josh Brolin, I met Josh on No Country for Old Men. I was doing Anton Chigurh, which was played by Javier Bardem for that film. I did his makeup. And then I did all the makeup effects for that film as well. That film was the Coen brothers, who I went on to continue to do more films with the Coen brothers, like True Grit, Buster Scruggs, and a couple others. But Josh Brolin, after I met him on that film, we started working together on Jonah Hex and continued to do films together. Men in Black 3, Labor Day, as you mentioned, Old Boy. We did quite a few in there together. And then after Old Boy, we haven't worked together again. I know his career is amazing, and he's gone on to do these amazing projects, and we still keep in touch. In fact, I just spoke with him about a week ago. But as far as a working relationship goes, he decided sort of at that point, and it happens sometimes in this business, where he didn't necessarily want somebody, the same person on every film. He was sort of at a point in his career at that moment where he was making some changes in his life, and he just wanted to experience different people on different films. And I respect that. You want to work with people that you get along with, that you collaborate well with. And at the same time, you want to go off and experience different working relationships with directors and other actors. And they want to, if you take it from their position, they want to go off and work with different artists as well and collaborate in different ways with other people. And so it happens. I love Josh, and I would love to continue to do some shows with him, but it's also been a great experience to be able to mutually step away and work on different projects and see his growth and have him look at my growth without just being on the same films together. But yeah, it's been you're bringing up projects that are bringing back memories of a fantastic 25 years and working with some of these people. It's been wonderful.
You and the crew contributed to the creation of Anton Chigurh. I mean, it's so iconic, and the little details, no? The makeup, the hair, wow.
Yeah.
Why will trust and yeah, fantastic things, man. Fantastic things. Jhon will be happy. Jhon, pues vas a estar feliz porque creo que viste la gran cantidad de proyectos que trabajó con Brad Pitt.
Sí,
Bueno,
bastantes.
con Brad Pitt ocurre algo interesante, ¿no? Él siempre ha tenido su artista de maquillaje desde hace 30 años, pero Brad Pitt ha confiado bastante en el trabajo de Christien y por eso hizo ese montón de proyectos, desde Ocean's 11 hasta el último, no lo puedo decir, pero la última película de Brad Pitt que va a salir, Christien hizo el maquillaje, o sea, imagínate. Obviamente no puede decir, ¿no? Pero de hecho los tatuajes, yo no sé, yo juraba que esos tatuajes reales, no, los tatuajes de Ocean's 11 los hizo Christien, hizo tatuajes para otros productores, obviamente Bullet Train, bueno, Killing Them Softly, que Killing Them Softly fue porque, bueno, que es el mismo director de Jesse James y el cobarde Robert Ford, el mismo director, él fue el que lo llamó. Pero aquí contó algo, obviamente no lo permite contar por el canal, algo agridulce que pasó con Josh Brolin. Sí, con Josh Brolin comenzó obviamente en No Country for Old Men, y eso fue una locura porque él estaba haciendo el maquillaje de Javier Bardem. Yo le dije que pues genial que haya contribuido en los detalles de uno de los mejores personajes de la historia. Con Josh hizo un montón de películas, sí, Labor Day, pero pues ocurrió algo, dice que siguen siendo amigos, pero que Josh fue el que decidió que ya quería trabajar con otra gente. Entonces él dice que son cosas que pasan, pero pues que es como agridulce porque, pues imagínate, o sea, fue una serie de cambios que hizo Josh en su vida y decidió ya no trabajar con él. Es triste porque todos los personajes que hizo desde el 2008 hasta estos últimos años, él fue el maquillador de Josh. Pero pues que imagínate, porque trabajó en casi todas las películas de los Coen de acá para arriba, pues imagínate.
No, eso sí. Gracias por decirlo, porque bueno, son experiencias únicas y bueno, agridulce, pero hay algo también bueno referente a otros proyectos. Hay dos producciones en el cual me parece interesantes que poco se lo ha mencionado, que es, bueno, Swordfish y Pa. Pa es una película hindú. Es una película que pasó muy desapercibida, entonces quisiera preguntarle sobre cómo es la experiencia en el tema de Bollywood. Así que comenta.
Okay, this is a great question because yeah, you heard about Swordfish, but you also worked on a Bollywood movie, Pa. So how was working in Bollywood? We know that Bollywood is another crazy thing. It's one of the biggest industries. How was working on that with them?
Just to touch base on Swordfish, Swordfish was one of the early films that I did where I was focusing on straight makeup, beauty makeup, not doing prosthetic work. I had done Pearl Harbor at that point, which for me was really about doing beauty makeup because I knew prosthetics already. I wanted to expand my skill set. And Swordfish was another one of those films right after. So it was Pearl Harbor, then it was Ocean's 11, and then I got offered Swordfish. Swordfish was happening at the same time that Rick Baker was about to start Planet of the Apes. And he had done The Grinch already, and he had asked me to come in and do Planet of the Apes with him and do one of the characters. And I had turned it down to go do Swordfish. And I remember Rick asking me, he goes, well, what kind of makeup effects are in Swordfish? And I said, there are no makeup effects in it. It's all just beauty makeup. And I remember him asking me, he goes, well, why would you want to go do that? You can do a monkey, you can do an ape. And for me, it was more about growing my career and growing, again, my ability to do things beyond just prosthetics. So Swordfish was a very important part in how I made decisions moving forward in my life. As far as Pa, Bollywood is, like you said, it's crazy. It's they do things differently in India. Paul was one of those weird projects where we were taking this very famous man that everybody knew in Bollywood. He's one of the most famous people in India. Amitabh Bachchan is his name. And we were trying to make him look like he was a young boy who had a disease that makes him look like an old man. It's kind of strange. But that film was the first of many that we have done in Bollywood. And we've done a few films with Amitabh Bachchan, in fact, since then. And it was a strange project. I'm very, very grateful for it because it introduced us to a new world of filmmaking. And that show, Paw, we got an award, which in India is the same as an Oscar in America. They have what they call an IFA award, and we won the IFA award that year for the movie Paw. So, yeah.
Kudos, no, and India, I love the perseverance. I mean, not only with RRR, I mean, now they are like the big potence on movies that I every time I lose a movie from India, I always look and they will mention it on the Oscars. RRR, I mean, Monkey Man this year is amazing.
Yeah.
No, love it, and Jhon will love it. But
Yeah.
Jhon, by the way, you did a great job. Don't worry, you did a great one on Swordfish. Halle Berry was stunning, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Right?
Yeah. Okay, like every man, I feel so envy. No, okay. Just kidding. No, amazing. Jhon, pues una historia buenísima en Swordfish, ¿no? Rick Baker, tú sabes que venía a ser del Grinch, y él iba a hacer pues, el planeta de los simios, ¿no? ¿Sabes? Y resulta que él, Christien le dijo, no, pero te voy a hacer el maquillaje en Swordfish. Entonces él le dijo, pero ¿cómo así? En Swordfish, ¿tú qué prosthetic vas a usar, no? Porque de hecho le tenían un personaje a Christien. Dijo, no, yo solo voy a hacer maquillaje de belleza. Y eso fue una forma de él como probarse, de decir, oye, no todo tiene que ser esto, ¿sabes? Prostéticos, no, puedo hacer maquillaje de belleza. Obviamente hizo un trabajo increíble, nada más Halle Berry en esa película. Y él dice que le quiere mucho la película, pero es igual tú sabes que el protagonista es una de las grandes estrellas de la India. Él lo hizo lucir como
bastantes.
No, sí, tú sabes, como Amir, ¿no? Tú lo hizo lucir como un niño que es abuelito a la vez, una cosa bien rara. Ha trabajado con muchas y se ganó el Oscar de la India por Pa. Y que dice que bueno, y yo le dije que no, que buenísimo, porque ahora yo cada vez que veo una película de India, yo estoy pendiente por el nivel de producción. Imagínate.
Qué nivel, no, thank you so much. No, eso es unas respuestas maravillosas. Bueno, para mi última pregunta, el chascarrillo, como esta es una pregunta sobre su cuestión de perspectiva como amante del cine, que los fans se cuestionan en Quora, eso sobre cómo vio el trabajo suyo en My Sister Keeper and Gamer. Yo sé que hay dos escenas icónicas, la escena final, que es el tema pues del maquillaje triste y todo, y la escena pues más bien divertida de Michael Sija, tú sabes, en el tema bailando, que le hacen muchos edits y todo. Entonces, ¿qué opinas sobre esas dos escenas?
Okay, as a final, and it's crazy because, yeah, we don't mention the Passion of the Christ. Don't worry, because it's a masterpiece. But I love this kind of interviews because Jhon is asking a question from fans in Quora about two specific scenes. The final scene in My Sister's Keepers, no hardest scene, really harsh scene. But also the funniest scene in Gamer, Michael C. Hall dancing, all the memes. So yeah, the fans want to know, it's crazy that the fans want to know more about these two particular scenes, the scene from the Passion of the Christ, but go ahead.
Gamer, oh my gosh, Gamer, that's a story right there. So My Sister's Keeper was one of those great films where it's not about, like you said, it's not about gore and it's not about all these things, but it's very important to tell the story correctly. And of course, part of that story had to do with a young girl with cancer who had no hair. because of going through cancer treatment. And then Cameron Diaz, who plays the mother, who shaves her head to sort of support her child who's going through this. And so we had to build these bald caps that looked like they were bald, but very importantly, build a bald cap for Cameron Diaz that looked like she could shave her own head. And from at that moment, I can't remember a film where somebody had to do that and make a prosthetic. Now, they probably have. Somebody probably has already done that. But at the time, I couldn't remember a film that had done that. And so what we did is we built a bald cap, and we had to punch the hair in. So you punch every individual hair in to make it look like a full head of hair. So that way, when you put the clippers and you buzz it, it looks like little roots of hair sticking out of the skin. And so it was very expensive to make it. But that moment when Cameron Diaz walks into the bathroom, looks in the mirror, grabs clippers and starts shaving, for the audience, it's a very real moment. And that was what was really important to us, is to give that moment and make it feel as though it was really happening, so the audience doesn't get taken out of the emotional response. And so that was a very important scene, as well as a very important movie to be a part of, even though we played a very small part. And so that one I always kind of remember fondly, because it was something really special to be a part of. It wasn't a huge movie. Not a lot of people remember that movie, but it was important to me to make that. As far as Gamer goes, Gamer is the same directors who did the Crank movies, and we've worked with them a few times. And they're really funny guys who, as you know, everything is over the top. Everything is big. Gerard Butler, who had just come off of doing 300 and was really famous at the time for having done the movie 300, was going to be the star of this movie. And this was a movie that, when I was approached, had a lot of effects, a lot of fake bodies, a lot of gore, a lot of different things. And so it was really exciting. The funny story about Gamer is, when Gamer started and we started building everything for it, I knew I was going to be on that show for the next 5 months. I got a call right when we started building the effects for that show from J.J. Abrams' office, and they were about to start this movie, Star Trek. And they asked me if I wanted to, or if I'd be interested in being the department head, which means run the makeup department for Star Trek. And at the time, I thought to myself, well, I got this movie Gamer with Gerard Butler. It's going to be this big movie. It's going to be a lot of stuff. And I'm not a huge Star Trek fan. I like Star Trek, but I'm not like a huge Star Trek person. And so I said, no, I'm sorry. I'm already busy. I have this other film I'm doing. They were like, okay, thank you. About 2 weeks later, I get a call from a friend of mine who got the job to be the designer for Star Trek. And she calls me, and she didn't know that I had already gotten the call. And she says, hey, I'm doing this movie, Star Trek. Do you want to come in and help me design and create this movie? And once again, I was like, no, I already have another film. I can't do it. A couple months later, they were having problems on Star Trek. And they asked me to come in and design the Romulans, which are the guys with the heads and the tattoos and everything. And I said, no, unfortunately, I'm on this other movie. I said, I can do the tattoos for you, but I can't do the film. Gamer ended up not doing very well. And Star Trek went on and won an Oscar. So sometimes your decisions that you make in this business aren't always for the best, but you choose your path, and that's what you end up doing. And that was my path.
But it's okay when the teen of the Passion of the Christ were nominated for the Oscar. Well, I will translate. What a great story. I will ask John. John, ¿tienes tiempo? Porque es una historia larga y buena.
Sí,
No,
está
tienes que
cansado.
saber. Te la digo rápido. John, yo no me las creo. En el My Sister's Keeper no era cabello real. Todo fue colocado a mano. O sea, fue un efecto
Wow,
carísimo que
man.
nadie lo vio. O sea, saben los días, en realidad no se rasuró su cabello real. O sea, fue increíble. No te digo todo. Increíble.
Amazing.
Que siente que es una de las primeras películas, no dice que es la primera, pero él siente que es una de las primeras que hizo efectos. Ahorita ese efecto es muy común. Y John, la historia triste de Gamer, él quiso hacerla con mucha emoción porque es el equipo de Cran, tú sabes, Gerard Butler. La historia triste es que lo llamaron 3 veces para hacer el maquillaje de Star Trek. Terminó haciendo los tatuajes, pero no hizo el maquillaje, y el maquillaje fue el que ganó el Oscar. Y obviamente eso sabes que Gamer no le fue tan bien, aunque él dice que amó hacer Gamer, que todos los efectos fueron 5 meses, un trabajo durísimo, buenísimo, obviamente, que se rió, eso es verdad. Pero yo le dije que bueno, igual cuando fue nominado a la Pasión de Cristo, pues yo celebré como todo el mundo, pero él hubiera podido haber
Lo
ganado el Oscar.
merece. Inclusive tiene un honorífico en los Oscar, que es como a los maquilladores y todo. Bueno saberlo. Por último, ¿cómo define su trabajo en una palabra y redes sociales? Por favor, todas las redes que puede decirnos.
As the final, the camera is yours. Define your career, your work in one word, and tell your social media so people can follow you. The camera is yours. Send a bit to Colombia, to wherever you want, to your friends, to the people from Quora. You say that nobody remember My Sister's Keeper, and they were the people that asked it. So thanks to the fans.
Thank you.
That movie got it.
I'm glad people like that. Blessed. Blessed. You know?
Yeah. I think it doesn't got a translation on Spanish, so that's even better. Blah.
Thank you, Jhon, for putting this together and making this happen. It's been very exciting. And Andre, thank you for interpreting. I mean, you can of course follow what we're doing to an extent on Tinsley Studio on Instagram or Tinsley Transfers, and then I have my personal Instagram, which is Tinsley MUA. Yeah, look, these were great questions. So many times, we're doing interviews about a specific project, or like you said, people always want to bring up the big films in between. But it's all these projects, and you've pointed out some great ones from early in my career into sort of the center of my career. These are the ones that build you as an artist. These are the ones that, sometimes people don't see as much, but are the ones that are something special to you and mean something to you. And it's great to know that they're being recognized, at least to enough that your fan base and yourself want to know more about them. In some ways I could get in much more detail about each one of these projects because, they take up part of your life. They are a part of who you are. When I look back, I'm going to be able to talk about my wife and my kids. And when people ask me about my career, it's going to be these small little vignettes given to each one of these projects. And so there's a story there for each one of them. And sometimes it's a very personal story. Sometimes it's as simple as making a paycheck. But they're all important, right? They're all a little part of who I am. And so I really appreciate it.
I will translate that to Jhon. Of course, thank you. And I think Jhon did a great job because, don't ask about the obvious. But no, it was great. I will tell Jhon, creo que tienes que agradecerle porque él dice que siempre le preguntan por esos grandes proyectos. Dice que le gustó que le hayas preguntado por los pequeños, porque para él cada uno muy especial. Dice que hay proyectos que son un cheque, para él muy especial. Dice que incluso cada proyecto hay historias como con los hijos, con la esposa. Pero no, que le agradece. Y a los fans también, porque pues ellos los que hicieron la pregunta de My Sister Keeper. Entonces,
my pleasure. Thank you so much. Vamos a tomar la foto como despedida. Y por último, felicitarte porque, adivinen, Andrés, es el maquillador de Terrifier 3.
Yeah, and we had to mention it. makeup from Terrifier 3. Cannot wait. I cannot wait. Wow. And,
Yeah.
And David was here. In fact, we need Damien here. But no, it's great to have. Wow.
Yeah, it's coming out in October. You've seen the first two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
So this one is going to this one is massive. It's whatever you thought you might have been grossed out in the first two, this goes even further. Damien's been showing me finished clips of the film, and it's disgusting, and it's wonderful, and it's going to be a lot of it. So
I remember something that David told us, that because all the craziness when Terrifier 2 that it will appear on the Oscars. David told me that day that the people from the art department and the makeup deserved the nomination. Hopefully this became with Terrifier 3 like please Oscar, watch out for these crazy movies, and maybe
Who knows? It's going to be, this will be the first Terrifier movie that meets the requirements. You in order to get nominated, you have to meet a certain level of requirements for the Academy to look at you. And the first two did not, because they weren't released at movie theaters for an extended period of time and things like that. Whereas the third one is going to be released nationally in October at theaters. And I was joking with Damien. I said, we're going to put it up for an Oscar. The Academy Awards don't really like movies like Terrifier, but as far as the effects go, I think we did a really great job, and Damien was an absolute pleasure. And like I said, it's going to be huge.